The aftermath of World War II saw the United States emerge as a global superpower. With much of Europe and Asia in ruins, America stood tall, its economy thriving and its military unmatched. The war had not only solidified its position as a leader in global affairs but also as a beacon of hope for democracy and freedom. The post-war period was marked by rapid industrial growth, technological innovation, and a sense of optimism that permeated American society. Its economic and military might were, well, unmatched. Factories churned out goods at an unprecedented rate, fueling not just domestic prosperity but also global recovery. The US dollar became the world's reserve currency, symbolizing its economic dominance. Meanwhile, its military presence extended across continents, ensuring stability and projecting power. America's influence shaped the world order. It played a pivotal role in establishing institutions like the United Nations, the World Bank, and NATO, which became cornerstones of international cooperation. Through diplomacy and strategic alliances, the US positioned itself as the architect of a new era of global governance. It championed free trade and democracy, promoting these ideals as universal values. The Marshall Plan, for instance, not only rebuilt war-torn Europe, but also cemented America's role as a benefactor and leader. This era of influence was marked by a belief in the inevitability of American progress and leadership. However, the early 21st century brought new challenges. The rise of emerging powers, particularly China, began to shift the balance of global influence. Economic uncertainties, from the 2008 financial crisis to growing income inequality, exposed vulnerabilities in the American system. Social unrest and political polarization further complicated the nation's ability to project unity and strength. The rise of China, economic uncertainties and internal divisions tested America's dominance. China's rapid industrialization and strategic investments in infrastructure and technology positioned it as a formidable competitor. Meanwhile, domestic challenges, including a divided Congress and widespread protests, highlighted the cracks in America's foundation. The year 2025 marked a significant turning point. It was a year of reckoning as the US faced critical decisions about its role in a rapidly changing world. Would it adapt to the new realities of multipolarity, or would it cling to an outdated vision of unipolar dominance? The choices made during this time would have far-reaching consequences. The decisions made in this pivotal year have set the stage for a dramatic shift in global power dynamics. As new alliances formed and old ones faltered, the world began to look less like the American-led order of the 20th century and more like a complex web of competing interests and influences. The once unquestioned authority of the United States on the world stage began to waver. Its absence in key global discussions signaled a retreat from its traditional leadership role. The world, it seemed, was moving on, with or without American guidance. Economic anxieties, coupled with a sense of waning global influence, fueled uncertainty among the American populace. The closure of factories and the loss of jobs painted a stark picture of a nation grappling with its own decline. Political debates grew more contentious, reflecting the deep divisions within the country. The image of a solitary weathered American flag serves as a poignant symbol of this period, reflecting both the nation's enduring spirit and the undeniable challenges it faced. It stands as a reminder of the resilience that has defined America throughout its history, even as it navigates an uncertain future. In 2025, President Trump launched a global trade war. He imposed tariffs on nearly every country. China, a rising economic powerhouse, became a primary target. The tariffs, reaching nearly 70%, were unprecedented. This aggressive move sent shockwaves through the global economy. Stock markets plummeted, oil prices crashed, economists warned of a looming recession. The trade war represented a stark departure from decades of US economic policy. It signaled a move away from globalization and towards protectionism. This shift had profound implications for international relations. The trade war was not merely about economics. It was a power play with far-reaching consequences. The trade war strained America's relationships with its allies. Traditional partners in Europe and Asia felt the economic squeeze. They questioned the wisdom of the tariffs. Many hesitated to support the pressure on China. Instead, they sought alternative trade agreements. The European Union, a major trading bloc, was particularly affected. The trade war revealed a growing rift between the United States and its traditional allies. This distancing was not solely due to economic factors. There were also disagreements on foreign policy and climate change. the trade war served as a catalyst, accelerating the drift between the United States and its partners. While the United States grappled with self-inflicted wounds, China saw an opportunity. The trade war inadvertently strengthened China's global position. As the US retreated from global trade leadership, China stepped in to fill the void. It forged new partnerships and expanded its economic influence. China's rise was not merely an economic phenomenon, it also had military and geopolitical dimensions. China invested heavily in its military capabilities, projecting power beyond its borders. It asserted itself in territorial disputes in the South China Sea. China's growing influence challenged the existing world order. America's experience in 2025 was not without historical precedent. In fact, when we look back at the annals of history, we see a pattern, a rhythm, almost, of nations and empires rising to prominence, only to face challenges that eventually lead to their decline. It's a story as old as civilization itself. Throughout history, empires have risen and fallen. It's almost like a cycle. From the ancient Mesopotamians to the mighty Mongols, the story of human civilization is marked by the ebb and flow of power. Each empire in its time believed it was invincible, destined to last forever. But history has shown us otherwise. The Roman Empire, the British Empire, and countless others, all reached a peak of power before eventually declining. The Romans, with their unmatched engineering and military prowess, dominated for centuries. The British, with their vast colonial reach, once ruled over a quarter of the world's population. Yet both eventually faced challenges they couldn't overcome. Historians often point to some common factors that contributed to their downfall. These aren't just random events but recurring patterns that seem to echo through time. The lessons are there, written in the pages of history, waiting for us to learn from them. Overreach, internal divisions, economic instability, and, of course, the rise of challengers. These are recurring themes when we look at the decline of empires. Overreach often stretched resources too thin, while internal divisions weakened unity. Economic instability created cracks in the foundation, and new challengers emerged to exploit these vulnerabilities. The United States, in its pursuit of global dominance, exhibited a few of these same characteristics. Its vast influence, both economically and militarily, was undeniable. But with great power comes great responsibility, and great risk. The challenges it faced in 2025 were not entirely unique, but rather a reflection of historical patterns. The 2025 trade war and everything that followed served as a pretty stark reminder that no nation, no matter how powerful, is immune to the forces of history. It was a wake-up call, a moment of reckoning that forced many to reconsider the trajectory of global power. The question remains, will we learn from the past, or are we doomed to repeat it? America's global dominance came at a cost. Its foreign policy decisions, often driven by self-interest, had unintended consequences. Military interventions in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan left a trail of instability and resentment. The war on terror raised concerns about civil liberties and human rights. America's pursuit of power also had a dark side. Its complicity in coups, support for authoritarian regimes, and involvement in the drug trade tarnished its image. These actions eroded trust in American leadership and fueled anti-American sentiment globally. The legacy of these actions continues to complicate America's relationships with the rest of the world. The year 2025 marked a turning point in global affairs. The trade war, the rise of China, and the shifting geopolitical landscape created a sense of uncertainty. The future of America's global leadership remained unclear. Would it adapt to the changing world order, or would it continue on a path of decline? The answers to these questions depend on a multitude of factors. Domestic politics, economic performance, technological advancements, and the actions of other global actors will all play a role in shaping the future. What is certain is that the world is in a state of flux, and the old certainties no longer apply. The events of 2025 shattered the illusion of American exceptionalism. The United States, once seen as the indispensable nation, found its influence waning. The trade war backfired, damaging the economy and alienating allies. China, emboldened by America's missteps, seized the opportunity to expand its global footprint. The world witnessed a power shift in real time. The United States was no longer the sole architect of the global order. Other nations and regional powers were asserting themselves, demanding a greater say in international affairs. The era of unipolarity was fading, replaced by a more multipolar and unpredictable world. The decline of American power does not necessarily mean the end of the world order. It marks a shift in the dynamics of global influence, where no single nation holds absolute sway. This transition is not unprecedented. History is filled with moments when empires rose and fell, and the world adapted to new realities. It does, however, signal a period of profound transition. Economies are becoming more interconnected, yet more competitive. The rise of emerging powers challenges the traditional dominance of the West, creating a more multipolar world. The old rules of the game are being rewritten. Institutions that once seemed unshakable are being questioned, and new frameworks for cooperation are being explored. This is a time of both uncertainty and opportunity. New alliances are being forged, nations are finding common ground on issues like climate change, technology, and trade, while others are grappling with internal divisions and external pressures. The global balance of power is in flux. The rise of Asia, the resilience of Africa, and the innovation of smaller nations are reshaping the geopolitical landscape. The future remains unwritten, and the possibilities are vast. It is up to the current generation of leaders to navigate this complex and uncertain terrain. Their decisions will shape not only their nations but the world at large. Will they choose cooperation or conflict? Will they prioritize dialogue and diplomacy, or will they succumb to the temptations of rivalry and division? Will they embrace a more equitable and sustainable world order? The challenges of climate change, inequality, and resource scarcity demand collective action and shared responsibility. Or will they cling to the vestiges of a bygone era? A world defined by isolationism, protectionism, and outdated ideologies risks stagnation and decline. The choices made in the coming years will determine the fate of the 21st century. The path forward is uncertain, but it is also filled with potential for progress, unity, and a brighter future for all.